The Chargers this last year won 10 games. We were pretty disappointed in LA. Key injuries to J.C. Jackson only played 5 games. Joey Bosa went on IR, and Rashawn Slater in his second season. The Chargers have not had easy over the last couple of years. They're one of the most snake-bitten teams by injuries, but we know the fans are built to handle that stuff. Over the last couple of years, they have throughout all of time. The issue in LA was defensively in the playoffs, they blew a pretty big one, right? They blew a pretty big one, and they have a lot of issues in this offense around Justin Herbert that haven't quite been solved. In the draft, because they choked, they have the 21st overall pick, along with the 54th, the 85th, and they have about negative 20 million. They've spent a lot of their money on key players like J.C. Jackson, who's got a $30 million dead cap if you want to release him. They're tied to the hip of this team. J-Ray, you're high in Justin Herbert. You think the playoff window with him is open, but this offseason, he's eligible for a monster extension that will cut close, ending that window of a top 5 quarterback in a rookie contract. How do the Chargers continue to get better, but not just improve? We've seen the baby steps. How do the Chargers, Justin, finally become a contender and not the same old pretenders? Like I said that?
Okay, so I'll be honest with you. What? So I do feel like the Chargers contenders because of the guy that is under center, and I felt that way going into the playoffs. For the longest, this was supposed to be the year that they were going to go toe to toe with Kansas City. The offseason moves that they made, bringing in Khalil Mack, bringing in a J.C. Jackson, and for people that I think both of us had been pretty hard on their weapons this year, and if they add on the offensive end for Justin Herbert. But going into the season, I thought Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer, Austin Eckler was more than enough on the offensive side. But I guess they were lacking that explosiveness, and lacking on top of injuries was just a recipe for disaster for the Chargers. And this is a good team, a good roster on paper. That's the problem though. Football isn't played on paper. It's not who's on your roster, it's what you on the field. And that was the biggest with the Chargers. I really believe if they'd gotten through the Jaguars, they could have competed with KC. They did it twice earlier in the season. They took them to the brink multiple times. They've been doing it for the last couple of years. I think the Chargers are a legit team. And yes, they have a lot of questions to be answered. Do you cut ties with Keenan Allen because he has a big cap hit this season? J.C. Jackson, if you're getting rid of him after 1 year, already a disaster of a move they made. But this team, like I said, as long as Justin Herbert is there, I feel more confident in their direction. I can't say this team can't compete because I honestly believe if you have that guy under center, if you have that main guy, an elite quarterback, he can take you to the next level. It's just about making the right moves now in the offseason, continuing to surround him with talent and invest in your – because if you're going to pay him as much as expected to get paid, that means it's all the more important now to hit on your draft, because you can't just go out there with that big cap hit. You have to draft correctly, and you have to draft people that can make immediate impacts, quite like the Chiefs did this past season.
Yes. So like y'all said, they don't have the cap space right now. I'm looking at their free agents this upcoming year. I mean, the one that just pops off, the biggest one, Kyle Van Noy. That might be a tough loss. He's not, what he once was, but he's still a good, solid veteran piece that knows how to play high level football, and has been in the playoffs and in the biggest stages, and made some pretty big plays. They're probably going to lose him in free agency because they don't have the space. They've kind of got the team down. That's why they don't really need to make a lot of moves in the offseason, especially splash moves in free agency, I should say, because they made those moves. They have the players. They just got injured last year. Rashawn Slater, J.C. Jackson, Bosa was in and out. Keenan Allen was in and out. Khalil Mack actually, I think, played all the games. But yeah, they just need to get healthy and hit in the draft, like Justin said. The draft is very, very important. Those rounds, like you need to find a player. I mean, like you said, I think the one thing on offense they were missing was that explosiveness. somebody to be explosive. I don't know if they go that first round. Maybe you go O-line first round. Maybe you get pick a defensive player because defense was kind of an issue for them here and there. So it'll be, but I think definitely somewhere in the first 3 rounds, you go get an explosive weapon to put in your offense that can game break because Keenan Allen's not gonna burn you. Mike Williams isn't gonna burn you. Austin Eckler is not like a burner. So Everett not a burner. You need that one guy that can create a lot more space because they got a lot of possession guys on their team.
You're right. So the good news for the Chargers is that Joe Lombardi is no longer their offensive coordinator. Thank you. Finally, Brandon Staley gets one thing right on that side of the ball. Offensively, the Chargers definitely need explosiveness. But the 21st pick, you have to go receiver early. I look at Jordan Addison. There's Quentin Johnson at TCU who's got size and great length. Zay Flowers at a Boston College. He seems like a very late first rounder that could slip into the second.
He put on some weight too. I saw a picture. I think he put on like 15 pounds of muscle.
Really? I wonder what he'll be playing at. I think the obvious thing for them, though, is running back. Austin Eckler is amazing at the backfield, but he's never eclipsed 20 carries in a single game before. He's more of a complimentary back, that touchdown machine, great out of the receiving backfield, but you want him to be an extra weapon and not the focal point. We saw in that, I make fun of them, that loss versus the Jaguars in the playoffs. They weren't running the ball down. They weren't just punching it down the opposing team's throat. And that's an issue for them. With Justin Herbert, you don't want him to have to throw 50 times in order to win those high-level games. Let him throw 25. And I think for the Chargers, establishing a level of physicality offensively will then open up those deep shots. When you can add that dynamic on the ground, then it's easier. Now, Keenan Allen, you made the point, Justin. He missed 7 games this last season, and he just turned 30 years old. Do the Chargers consider cutting Keenan Allen? It sounds crazy, right? Because the last couple of years, one of the premier receivers in the league, but they can free up $15 million, and they'd only have a $6 million in dead cap for a player that, let's be honest, you save a lot of cap space, so you can replace him with a guy that's younger and maybe long-term brings a similar amount of value. And it's a tough decision, BC, sure, but
I know it's a tough decision. I know, going by the Bill Belichick rule of thumb, get rid of him a year early and not a year too late. But for me, it's just like Keenan Allen is a very important, person in that locker room and on that team. I don't think Mike Williams is ready to be a number one. I don't think he'll ever be a number one, if I'm going to be honest with you. You need Keenan Allen. I think you keep Keenan Allen. I got to be honest. I would, unless you see out there that there's something that you can go get to replace a Keenan Allen, which I don't see. Like, I don't think you're getting a D-Hop. So I stick with Keenan. I don't think you, but I really want to comment. I forgot to bring up Kellen Moore because he's a major part to this team that I'm really excited for. He is going to be, Justin Herbert and him are going to be best friends. He's going to help Justin Herbert. I don't expect to have the same season he had last season where his numbers were down. I expect him to be up there, 45 plus 100 yards, 35 touchdowns, above a 65% completion percentage. I expect these things because Kellen Moore is a great offensive coordinator. I think we all saw that in Dallas. Just go look up the numbers that Dak put up, the Cowboys put up in total. I think over Kellen Moore's tenure, he's only second in total offensive yards to, guess who? The Kansas City Chiefs. That's pretty good company. He's going to make Justin Herbert that much better. He's going to make this offense that much better. He's going to scheme up the open plays for Justin, and Justin Herbert's just got to make the right plays, to make the right throws. And I think we all expect him to do that. So great move by the Chargers to go get a Kellen Moore. Still iffy on a Brandon Staley. Not, a big fan of Brandon Staley as a head coach, but they got the coordinator right for the offensive side of the football. So now Brandon Staley hopefully can just focus on defense and, make that thing actually good because that's what you were.
And he's going to need a healthy secondary. This year, Nasir Adderley is a free agent. So is Drew Tranquil, who has started the last couple of years. Had a career-high 5 sacks last season, nearly 100 tackles.
Shout out Asante Samuel Jr., though.
Oh, for sure. When we talk about the depth of this young team, the younger players, Asante Samuel is an emerging star. We saw that 3 interceptions versus the Jaguars, had himself a killer game. And the flashes have always been there. He was probably a first-round prospect that slipped to them. That was one heck of a pick. I feel like for the Chargers, they got to add more of that secondary, but that secondary has to stay healthy for Brandon Staley's Fangio-style defense. It relies a lot on communication because they're always changing their coverages, and a lot of it is relying on a pass rush that's good enough. They had the pass rush of Joey Bosa can stay healthy. It's about guys like Derwin James, who they just inked that massive contract playing all 17 games. Because if he isn't, y'all are cooked. It comes down to that, quite frankly, for the Chargers. Draft well, stay healthy, and for the love of God, get some help for Justin Herbert. And there's no inclination, no signs yet they'll cut Keenan Allen, but with a $25 million cap hit next year, I think that's something they should at least consider.